Welcome to a reading of Social Conundrums, Part 1. Anne's large golden eyes gazed at the glimmering filaments. These delicate strands crisscrossed everywhere she looked in what philosophers called the garden. Each minuscule string vibrated with immeasurable energy, creating what little dragons believed were the most beautiful sounds in the universe. Although the primary color of the place was white, the music would bring in others. Glowing white filaments would change hue for a brief second, followed by another, and then another. A whole sequence of breathtaking rainbow colors would then flicker throughout the space. There was nothing like the garden in the world, an epicenter of peace, beauty, and unlimited power existing out of time and space. Anne could only enter it in one form, that of the dragon. She lifted her long neck and stretched out her iridescent wings. It had been a long day. Anne hoped the place would give her troubles perspective. Little dragons have been coming here ever since they evolved enough to discover it. Once the garden had been opened to them, her people realized they were more creatures of energy than matter. It was then they shed the former title of their species human and adopted the name Little Dragon. Little was used because although humanity had made great leaps forward, it seemed prudent to keep some form of humility. After all, there is the one who created them. A soothing song filled the garden, but interspersed with the beautiful melody was an occasional discordant note. Anne listened. It played that song for her, and she was forced to conclude it was very accurate. Her life in general was going smoothly, except for one aspect. The discordant note was her lover, Gershom. There were two sides to Gershom. The one he shared with her when they were alone, and then the one he showed on the Planet Project's Social Code Committee. The man had somehow managed to separate their personal from their professional roles. She loved him when they were alone, but on the committee she wanted to banish his energy from her sight. The man was relentless in pursuing his ideals. No matter how much they debated or argued, he still believed that the Planet Project's inhabitants should receive as little direction in their social development as possible. Their personal experiences should guide them, not our directives. He fought against every suggestion otherwise. A real problem for me, the leader of this whole enterprise. Today they had battled for hours on adding one item to the social code. The idea originated from a speech that Alexandria, the Planet Project's head scientist, gave to the committee. He stated that in preliminary tests, Little Dragon energy tended toward creating a very diverse group of inhabitants. I believe that countless races as well as people of different sexual orientations will be represented on this planet, Alexandria said. I then made the suggestion that we teach the inhabitants to embrace all differences. Gershom, who studied unenlightened societies more in depth than myself, knew that something as simple as the color of one's skin can cause one race to fear another. I remember thinking, he will understand the wisdom of this directive. But even now I can still see his disapproving frown from where he sat on the opposite side of the negotiating table. Making such a proclamation is too godlike for my taste, he said. A society that chooses on its own to value differences in its people will be more likely to follow that dictate than one who does it because someone more powerful than them told them it was a good idea. Then I guess children shouldn't ever listen to their parents, I had retorted in frustration. Gershom then actually smiled at me, and I saw a mischievous gleam come into his eyes. Not everyone is suited to be a parent, and some children have to navigate life based on their experiences. But what about our experiences? Sandra said, coming to my rescue. Our past shows that if we don't give them direction, there could be exploitation of one race or even genocide. I was grateful that my friend, who gave the lecture on the period of enlightenment at the Planet Project vote, agreed to be on the council. Giving them a directive doesn't mean it still won't happen. You have to trust that their DNA, which comes from us, will be more enlightened than our human ancestors. I agree with Gershom. If they make the decision on their own, then they will be more apt to become enlightened like us. Hannah, another historical anthropologist that Gershom managed to get onto the committee, said, Arguments for both sides kept flying back and forth until I was forced to conclude that the committee was firmly divided over the issue. Seeing no way to overcome this gridlock, I suggested a recess until tomorrow. I immediately came here to try and find some way through the dilemma. That ends Social Conundrum Part 1. This story will continue with Part 2 on July 22nd. Next week we will continue with Part 1 in Songs from the Depths by Meg Swanson. 7 days are left to visit www.reneeannhughes.com to enter our free raffle for one of 4 prizes. All you have to do is submit your email address by June 30th for a chance to win. To learn more about humanity's evolution, social conundrums, and the Storytime Adventure for Adults video series, visit my website, www.reneeannhughes.com. If you would like to contribute to this series, please feel free to become a patron on Patreon. Details for joining are on my website, and also please subscribe to this YouTube channel so you won't miss any new videos. Goodbye, and thanks for listening.